barnstormer.
What a total drive-by assassination from Robert Jenrick of his former party. And as he said in that press conference, the one that he has been a part of since, was it 16, 17, he joined the party, since he was a teenager. And, you know, throwing colleague after colleague under the bus, Priti Patel, Mel Stride, Kemi Badenoch, absolutely astonishing scenes. This is surely a moment for the future of the right of politics that we've not seen for... I can't remember a moment where I thought this is really such a momentous moment which really could change things. Perhaps that press conference where Boris Johnson said, I'm not going to run for leader of the Conservative Party. Just to go back to some of what he said, the Tories no longer fit for purpose. Over the last year, I've realised that I was naive. Most of the Conservative Party in Westminster in denial or worse. I can't kid myself anymore. The party hasn't changed and it won't. Blaming both Labour and the Tories for what he sees as a failed consensus of the last 20 years. Britain is broken. Saying that the next election is going to be Starmer versus Farage. I think many people do think that that is the case. And Nigel Farage at the very start of that press conference, I didn't quite believe it until Robert Jenrick got on that stage where he was definitely going to come. Now, the Tories say this afternoon that that was because they've released some of his speech to the media and they say he was late because he was rewriting his speech so that he didn't have to use the same words that they have just leaked to the media. Absolutely astonishing. My inbox is filling up with reaction. Most of which is unsafe to say on the radio, I have to say. I can't say that. One says, a man we all called Robert Jenrick has taken another shapeshift. Robert Jenrick was a full-on, wholesale supporter of this Cameron agenda. He wasn't ever reluctant. He was full-on. Another person has said, what an ex, which again I can't say. Right, yeah, okay. Another person has said the ultimate traitor. One person on the Reform side has said, this reminds me why I had to leave the party. All of this crowing from the Conservatives. This is basically saying they were hoping that we would basically go away so they can dash back to their out of touch, outdated Blair, Cameron, May hellhole. You'll notice they didn't say Boris in that one.
And yet, actually, in Robert Jenrick's speech, and I think actually for quite a lot of people who have worried about the numbers that have come to the country in recent years, it does go back to Boris Johnson. Whether it was a drive-by of a former colleague or not on Priti Patel, it is true she was Home Secretary when the government opened the borders to millions of people at a rate that this country has never experienced in its history.
Yeah, and that's exactly what he said. He said, I told them that Kemi, she needs to change. She needs to change tack, to move away from this failed old consensus, and that she hasn't, and that he can't kid himself. The party hasn't changed anything.
The real kneecapping of the Conservative Party, rather than individuals in it, he said, so compromised it cannot speak for the country.
Yeah.
And every time, and whether or not this goes away with the passing of time, don't know. But every time a Conservative minister or a shadow cabinet minister comes on the programme to talk about the things they want to do, what they think is wrong about what the government has done, the question is always, well, why didn't you do it? Or why did you do the opposite when you were in power?
Exactly.
How do they get around that? I don't know.
Well, Robert Jenrick is today saying they can't. He's saying they absolutely can't get round this, and that there's, he's tried to wait for that change to come. He hasn't seen it happen. He believes that reform is now the only answer, and he's basically saying, this is the call to action, right? Put aside your party loyalties, join me. That is the next question, I think, that what people in Westminster are going to have to look at. And over the next few hours and days, will anyone follow Robert Jenrick? Because that really could spell the end of the Conservative Party if Kemi Badenoch gets a walkout of some of her shadow cabinet or potentially some of her own MPs. We still don't have a lot of answers to exactly what's happened within the Conservative Party in reform in the last 24 hours. It's quite clear that Robert Jenrick has been talking to Nigel Farage for quite a while. As he said, we've known that. And he did say today, I resolved to fight for my children and grandchildren some time ago. When did he make that decision to go to reform? Nigel Farage has claimed today that it was basically earlier today. He said it wasn't a signed, sealed, delivered. Do you believe that, Tom? Do you believe that was...
Absolutely not. No. Robert Jenrick has said for ages he was radicalised in the Home Office. Interesting use of the term radicalised.
I think that's true. I remember talking to him before and after the Home Office, and he very much is a different guy from what he thinks he's seen in government and saw in the Home Office. But some other news to bring you. Kemi Badenoch is delighted to announce Nick Timothy will be the new Shadow Justice Secretary. So she is wasting absolutely no time. Bye-bye, Robert Jenrick. I don't want you in my party anymore.
Natasha, appreciate it. Thank you very much indeed. Natasha Clark, LBC's political editor. Daniel's in Golders Green. Daniel, blimey.
Hi, Tom. Wow. Tom, firstly, can I just say that the Tom Swarbrick at Drive on LBC is where it all happens.
Always, my friend. Always happens. We're always on our toes between 4 and 6, Monday to Thursday, and then 4 and 7, Monday to Friday. Daniel, your thoughts? Come on, let's have it.
As a staunch reform supporter, I've got to say, Tom, that this defection from Robert Jenrick is a game changer, because not only have we welcomed one of the most powerful and influential political speakers and communicators in Parliament, but we have answered one of the biggest and potentially most fairest criticisms of reform, which is that they don't have any experience of government. Well, we do now.
But the experience of government is one that Robert Jenrick said has left the country about to go to the dogs. Why is that the experience that reform wants?
Because we've had former Conservative ministers like Robert Jenrick who were Conservative in a party and a government that wasn't Conservative. You've got people that believed in low taxes and low immigration that were in a government that forced through high taxes and high immigration. So, and this was, Tom, something that was felt by a lot of former Conservative voters like myself, who felt totally and utterly betrayed by 14 years of Conservative government.
Daniel, I appreciate the call. You've heard it all, folks. The run-up has been long for Robert Jenrick's defection to reform. It's finally happened after that dramatic sacking, and the words that he used, the painting of the country that he put on canvas, the description of the internecine warfare within the Conservative Party at the expense, he would suggest, of Britain, is astonishing.